Hi, everyone. I wanted to introduce you today someone super awesome, Phillip Rizzo, and I love that last name. And can you tell us more about yourself? Because you're going to do way more justice than I can.
Well, first of all, it's great to be with you, Brittany. It's an honor to sit down and talk to you. Like you said, my name is Phil Rizzo, and I am the Regional Vice President for ASIS, which is the American Society of Industrial Security, which is the largest professional network in the world. And beyond that, I'm the owner and the principal of Rizzo's Protective Group, which is my own company. We specialize in security training and consulting. And we have three main focuses that we really give a lot of our attention to. One would be active shooter risk mitigation training. The second component would be de-escalation of aggression. And then the third component, where we work really closely with HR professionals, HR departments, it's a module called tactical termination, whereby we go into the HR department working closely with the HR professionals, and we educate, empower, and enlighten them on how to terminate an employee with tact. And each one of those letters of the word tact stand for something. TACT. You tell the person what the problem is. You show them how their behavior is affecting themselves and others around them. And then you suggest changes in the behavior, and then trade-offs, how they can benefit from it and how it'll help them in their, if it doesn't help them in their immediate work situation, then God willing, it helps them in their next situation. So we focus a lot on training. We focus a lot on prevention, because the best thing to do is to prevent a situation before it happens. Like we always say, the best time to prepare for an emergency is before one happens, not during and not after. So that's what we do. Our focus is kind of narrow, and we just try to prevent people from hurt, harm, or danger. And one of our mottos is that we keep everybody secure in their person, papers, and effects.
I think it's what you provide is, invaluable because there are so many situations that we have all, as we talked about, have seen. We've all seen examples that were spicy situations, if you will. And
Absolutely.
sometimes that things were handled better than others, and this is what you train people to do. So I know there are a lot of HR people out there that would benefit from your services. So thank you. And so the reason how we came to be and became, friends is because there was a post recently that I made that was about don't test people, because you never know at work. Like there's examples I've seen many times where people put on this front like they're big and bad, and they feel like they have this shield on them. Like, well, I'm at work. What are you gonna do? Well, some people, that doesn't mean anything to them. They will still choke slam you. So if I highly, suggest that people to like watch how they talk to people. Like, and you even mentioned to me, it was like it's not what you say as much as how you say it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've learned that through being married.
True.
My wife might choke slap me if I say something the wrong way. But yeah, I mean, in the workplace, it's surprising that some people think they have carte blanche to do whatever, and it really doesn't matter what their title is.
Right.
You can be CEO or whatever. You need to talk to people in a way, like I said in the post, that doesn't get you chin checked. You know what I mean?
Yep, it's true.
And that's important because what you say and how you say it really influences the behavior of the other person. We'll talk more about workplace violence and stuff like that, but a lot of people bring trouble on to themselves, and it's unnecessary. If they would check, number one, the important thing is to check your ego. No matter what role you are carrying out, you got to leave your ego outside before you come into the building. Don't leave your brain, but check, you know,
Hmm.
and that's the problem. Some people, you know, they get caught up in titles, and they think they can get away with everything and anything. But that's wrong because, you know, the way a person talks to you, it it can, you know, our words can give life or they can bring death, you know.
Absolutely.
So we have to watch, you know, Brittany, we have to be cognizant of how we say what we say. Because, for an example, let me give you a quick example. If you can't see me at all, and like there's a big fence that divides us and you can't see me, and I'm talking to someone else, and you can't see my facial expressions, and I say to this person, all you can do is hear me. All you can do is hear me. And I say, I killed him. I killed him. But you can't see the expression on my face. Then I say to the same person, a couple seconds later, you might not have heard what I said at first. Then I say, I killed him. I killed him. Okay, so there's a difference
Hmm.
in the way you say what you say.
Absolutely. That's a really good example. Because I was wondering
Yeah.
where you're going with that too, and I was like, that's it's so true. Like, and the example that I had brought to the table of my own was I had just literally quit a job, and I was packing up my things, and I was saying bye to a few engineers and scientists that I had worked with because those were good people, but I had to go.
Sure.
So while I was doing that, the C I right before this happened, a CEO had offered me a job to work directly for him, and it was a very toxic work environment. He was not a good human, and I was like, absolutely not, I'm quitting.
Yeah.
I didn't tell him that. I actually was like, okay, yes, sir, and then went and packed my bags, or my box. But his secretary had, has been with him 20 years, and she took offense to this and came running downstairs to find me and got in my face. I'm talking like in my bubble, and I went into like parade rest for the military. That's like you put your arms like this and right in front of you. I immediately locked up because it was not going to be. And I'm a lover. I am not a fighter.
Not a fighter. Okay.
I have emotional intelligence, and I was like, oh, but at the same time, we're still humans,
Yeah.
and our fight or flight is a real thing. And if someone's that close in your face, you instinctively, maybe it's just me, start to worry about your physical, what's about to happen. So I told her in some words, that she needed to get out of my face immediately. And
Yeah.
then she had sidestepped, and then I went about my way. But I I was able to refrain from putting hands on her. But there are other people that maybe don't have that level of restraint.
Yeah. Um, Absolutely. And to your point, a lot of people don't. And a person has to train themselves, just like a doctor has to be trained, just like a lawyer has to be trained, just like a pilot has to be trained. You, I, everyone else, we have to train ourselves mentally to think before we act. You know, a
Mhm.
lot of times it's important to run our words past our mind before they come out of our mouth. And for that lady to get into your face like that, that is invading your personal space, and
Mhm.
that's the one thing we train on, specifically is, you know, don't let someone invade your personal space. Now I know if you go to different countries and there's different cultures, there are different spatial rules where
Right.
people talk to another person, but here, um, your personal space is about 1.5 to 2 feet. Anything inside that is your intimate space. And
Mhm.
that belongs to you and nobody else. Only you can give permission for that intimate space.
Absolutely.
Um, but you know, that was a risk she took. Her tone, her invading your space. A lot of people, though, they can't control themselves, so they have to work on it. You know, it has to be a mental process. You have to not let someone push you or take you to a place that you would regret. Because in the workplace, if somebody puts hands on another person or anyone, even out on the streets, that's the simple definition of battery or assault, which is the unlawful application from one person to another of force. Okay, so anybody who puts hands on anybody, they can catch a charge
Mm-hmm.
of battery.
Right. It's an immediate thought process, that went through my mind of, is this worth it? And
Yeah,
to me, it wasn't. I have too long of a career, like even though I'm younger, like I still have like over a decade. I'm not trying to lose my security clearance. I'm
yeah,
not. She's not
not
worth
worth.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. And
And I.
that's what, I mean, you're exactly right. It's not worth it. And that's what people have to ask themselves. You know, when I've been in situations like that before, I had to ask myself, am I going to be any good to my wife if I'm in prison? Absolutely
Right.
not. So
Exactly.
you gotta, everything's a cost benefit analysis, and you got to be able to do it like that. A lot of times you don't have time to really process it, but that's where the training comes in. You
Mm-hmm.
know, that's where the minute your feet hit the floor in the morning, it's all risk mitigation, all of it, from how you put your foot on the stairs walking downstairs
Mm-hmm.
to how you get into the car and put on your seatbelt. You know, everything is risk mitigation, and risk can only be mitigated. It can't be eliminated. That's, you know, that's one of our taglines, but
That's
it's the
good.
truth. It's the
Mm-hmm.
truth. So I mean, people have to understand that it's a stressful time, not only with COVID, but we live in stressful times even pre-COVID. um, you know, you hear on the news far too often that there was an active shooter situation at some location. You know, people come back to a facility and want to commit acts of vengeance and violence with weapons. And, you know, even in our houses of worship, even in our synagogues, even in our churches today, we're not safe to worship without the risk of or the threat of hurt, harm, or danger.
It's crazy.
So it is. It's a sign of the times that we live in. And, you know, you have to be vigilant. You know, you have to be, and it can be exhausting, Brittany. It really can,
Mm-hmm.
because, um, you know, and I catch grief sometimes from my wife about this, but it's the way I think, because sometimes, you know, pre-COVID, when we would go to the theater and,
Mm-hmm.
and to watch a movie, it's really important. Um, I don't know why my phone is ringing because I shut it off. I apologize.
Oh, it happened to me on my last Zoom. Don't even worry about it.
Let it go. It's really important as to where you sit in the theater,
Mm-hmm.
because, you know, if someone wants to come in and commit an act of violence or vengeance in that theater or aggression,
Mm-hmm.
you need to be near an exit. You know,
Absolutely. Yeah. You have to.
and where you sit can be life or death. So
And like you, that's why I feel your training is really important, because like the bystander effect, there's going to be situations at work where you see something about to go down that has nothing to do with you, but it's like, what do you do? What are you allowed to do? What should you do? And a lot of people don't know. Like I just had a friend tell me about a situation happened yesterday where they were out on the flight line, aviation stuff, and one guy kept poking at the other one, kept poking at the other one, and just and told him, just hit me. And everyone was around watching this happen. He's egging him on and egging him on. And I do not condone workplace violence.
yeah,
However, if you are asking for it, and then guess what happened? The dude gave it to him, knocked him out, and now it's going to be this huge deal, of course. And it's
yeah.
just like that could have been prevented on both ends, of course, and none of it should have happened. But it's like in that situation, what could have people that were around have done? Do you feel that would be proper?
Well, I mean, the person who was the aggressor, you have to recognize who that is right away. Like, just for example, if you and I are having some type of disagreement, um, let's say I'm the aggressor,
Mm-hmm.
you would want to keep your you'd want to keep your distance from me. You know, you wouldn't want to be close enough to me to where I could physically grab you or anything like that. You want to stay out of the kill zone. That's what we refer to it as, and that's that area of space that I talked to you about before,
Right.
1.5 to 2 feet. You don't want to be close enough to somebody to where they can grab you. So that's number one. That's a de-escalation technique. Keep your distance.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to, you know, you don't want to escalate the situation by what you say, what you do, your thoughts, your words, or your deeds. I mean, whoever that was who punch the other person. Um, was it in retaliation to him doing something, or was he the one who punched the other guy, the guy who said, just punch me, just punch me, just punch me?
So there was this guy who was just egging him on, egging him on, egging him on, and then it was like, I bet you won't hit me. I bet you won't hit me in my face. And then this guy was like, and that
Okay.
was that.
Well, the guy, he's asking for trouble, but still, the
Right.
guy who hit him needs to know what the potential consequences are.
Oh,
If
and he will.
yeah, if
I'll
he
tell you
gets
that.
busted down, say he gets busted down in rank, say he has to clean the latrine with a toothbrush for a month or something, whatever the discipline is, it's
Right.
going to be real. So I mean, you gotta always think what the potential consequences are, and that's
Hmm.
what people don't think about.
And there was
You
other guys and girls, whatever, around, and I just wonder what they could have done. I mean, is it advised to stay out of it and not get in the middle?
no, I wouldn't advise that. I mean, if you can help to avoid a physical confrontation, that's advisable. You do it from a distance so that you're safe, so that you don't put yourself in the line of fire or in harm's way. But to prevent violence it's a laudable thing. It's something that people can do in the workplace, for example.
Hmm.
Like if we're on the warehouse floor and you see two employees, getting in each other's faces, it was my responsibility at that time to make sure that didn't happen. So if I saw that happen, I'm like the referee wearing the zebra striped shirts, except I don't have a whistle, but
Hmm.
you, you got to get in between them and tell them, look, you don't want to do this. And I'll tell you why, because X, Y, and Z is going to happen to you if you do it. Now, if you want to go ahead, and I usually I try my best to talk clear and unequivocally to people, let them know what the consequences are. I tell them, you do this, and then you'll be at the Ohio Bureau of Unemployment looking for a new job. Is that what you want?
Right.
You got to tell people in crystal clear terms, because if you beat around the bush, if you ham and haw, then you might be part of the problem. Like in the one post that the follow-up post to the post that you posted, I added a couple pointers
Mhm.
as to what not to do or what to do. And one of the things is to make sure that we or I or we're not adding gasoline to the
Right.
situation.
Don't make it worse.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that you can do if you're responsible for trying to interrupt a crisis is you listen, you empathize, you agree, and then you partner. Those four little letters spell the word leap.
Hmm.
It's You try to leap forward from stress and tension to a more peaceful situation. So you listen. The, our creator gave us, one mouth and two ears because he wants us to listen twice as much as we talk.
Yep. Yes.
Uh,
Much yes.
and after you listen actively, um, you have to try to empathize with the people involved. You have to
Right.
put yourself in their shoes, even if it's momentarily.
Hmm.
Uh, and then you agree, you listen to agree. And it doesn't matter if you're agreeing temporarily to something that you might not go for. The goal is keep the peace, make sure there is no harm that's done to anybody. So you agree for the moment.
Right.
And then the last thing you do in your process of agreeing is you partner with the people. You tell them, listen, this is what we can get if we can find a way to reach an agreement here. A
Hmm.
lot of people, Brittany, they talk about peace. A lot of people talk about peace, but they don't do what's necessary to achieve peace. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Peace is tough work.
Yes,
It,
absolutely.
it requires sacrifice on both parts, because if you get everything you want in a deal, that's not a peace negotiation. That's a power move. That's a broker move. That's like, peace involves sacrifice, and so you have
Good
to
point.
give a little to get something. You
Hmm.
can't always get the whole pizza pie. Sometimes you gotta give a couple slices to somebody else so that everybody can eat. Everybody can be happy.
Your East Coast is coming out hard, friend.
Shout out to the Bronx, the boogie down Bronx.
I love it.
Westchester.
I love it. Oh my gosh. I'm from like up north, like Tupper Lake area, Saranac Lake. So
Okay.
I'm not as cool as you from down there. You guys, but you got the best pizzas.
Oh yeah, we do. We got great pizza pies. You know, I'm not so bad making a pizza pie of my own. Every Sunday at the Rizzo's household, I make homemade pizza. So
Oh,
if you're
jealous.
ever in the neighborhood, you got a seat at the table. Okay.
Yes, sir.
A big Sicilian style pizza.
And you're in Ohio now, though?
Yeah, I am. I'm in Ohio.
Okay. Just for the people to know that, you know.
Yeah. I'm
they're
located in Akron, Ohio, which is 32 miles south of Cleveland, where LeBron James used to play for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I think, so you kind of touched on tact as well earlier. So here, and I'm sure, of course, it was all over the news, there was the Route 91 shooting here in Las Vegas.
Okay. Yeah.
Country concert.
I know what you mean. Yeah, at the concert. Yeah, out of the hotel, right?
Yeah. And, you know, so many people were not obviously trained to deal with that. Like, it was the biggest mass shooting, which I find highly weird that got shut up so fast. But anyway, a lot of people didn't know how to handle that, and lives were probably lost because of that. You know, situational awareness, the military taught a lot of us that, or all of us, and some retained it, some didn't. But like you said, you know, when you go into certain places, you always should be thinking of how you can risk mitigate. And it's the same thing at work in that situation. No, I'm not trying to like blame anyone, but it's just good to know going into places, people, you guys should be, you know, cognizant of what could go wrong, so that it's not being negative to think of what could go wrong. It's a survival technique.
Absolutely. I mean, and I can't recall that the shooter's name. I can't recall his name off the top of my head, but let me tell you, talking about situational awareness, I mean, when I studied that, when I reviewed that case, this guy brought in about 45 bags, 45 large pieces of luggage. And it was just him. I mean, there wasn't anybody else hauling in all of these cache of weapons, these assault weapons. It was just him. So somebody in the lobby, the bellhops or somebody, they should have recognized, okay, why is this guy hauling in all of these pieces of luggage and it's only him? What shocks me is that no one recognized that this guy was just trucking it in left, right, day after day, you know?
Like, yeah, where was that? And especially from the security standpoint, like, how did you not, like, no one pick up on that? And I know it's easier to say that being not in their shoes, but, you know, I've done security at the gate in Iraq before, and we had our training too on, you know, things to look out for. And I feel like, you know, suspicious type of activity like that is something we are trained for. And I feel like that security team would be too. So, and even not being a security person, for like all the viewers, it's just, you know, your situational awareness. If things look funky, you know, go with your gut and like mitigate that risk.
Yeah,
Think
absolutely.
about what you should do.
No, absolutely. I mean, our gut, or our sixth sense, so a lot, you know, it's right a lot of times. Those triggers, those mechanisms that happen inside of us, they're there for a reason. Survival, you know, the fight or flight mode, which in the animal kingdom is life or death. Okay. You got a little deer lapping up water at the pond, and if it's not paying attention while it's doing it, you know, bam, there comes the lion or the tiger or the jaguar or whatever. So, you know, going back to knowing how to train yourself to prepare for de-escalation processes, you got to do the same. You got to be situationally aware. You got to know what your normal baseline is around you. You got to pay attention. You know, you got to be scanning your line of sight, your field of vision, you know. And these are things people can train themselves to do. These, you don't have to be a high risk security specialist, or you don't have to be a sniper or something like that. You know, I I tell my mother all the time, God bless her, I tell her, look, if you're going to go out for a walk, I call her, I say, look, if you're going to go out for a walk, be careful. Don't carry your cell phone, out where everybody can see it. Just be careful. You got to be situationally aware. So, I mean, at that hotel, it just, you know, the crowd wasn't trained, because very few people are trained
Mm-hmm.
as to what to do when an active shooter event or an ASE. So that's one thing we all have to do. We all have to get trained, and we all have to drill and practice, and we have to take it serious, because it is life or death. I
Right.
mean,
And I know people might be wondering, like, why are you guys talking about this and workplace violence? Because I mean, it all wraps up into the same conclusion that, many of us are not, um, trained in this. And
yeah,
because of that, um, it's important to know that, there's people out there like you who do this training, leaders out there who have never fired someone before, and they're worried because that person is already kind of hostile. You come in and help with that situation on different levels depending on the situation.
absolutely. I mean, everything that we do is geared towards deterring, detecting, delaying, and responding. So what you want to do is you want to deter the event from happening in the first place, and therefore you train the staff. And during an active shooter event, there's three basic things that you have to do to try to increase your survivability rate. Nothing's 100%. Like I said before, risk can only be mitigated; it can't be eliminated. So, the three things that you should do is, if you're in a building, you evacuate. For the people that were at that concert, you know, once you start to hear something that resembles shots, you 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 beat feet. You,
Mm-hmm.
you
Get,
don't wait
get
around.
low. Get
You know,
low and beat feet.
yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's what people aren't trained to do. They think, oh, it's just an old car backfiring, or it's some noise or something like that. Don't, like, if you're in a university setting, you don't go out into the hallway and look and see.
Right.
Who cares if you're wrong? The joke's on you, ha ha ha, but at least you live to play another day. You know what I mean?
Right. Just like, and this should be, because everyone needs, this training, I feel that, in schools, I mean, there's school shootings. Like, this is things that everyone should care about, because I mean, they're obviously, the kids are the most important, but there's also, this is a workplace for teachers as well. So it is a
Sure.
workplace. Those concerts, that was a workplace for people that were working there.
Sure.
So that's where, I wanted to get people understand why we were going in that direction.
They need
Um,
to they need to evacuate, hide, fight. Those are the three things that they need to do. Just
mhm.
to touch briefly on them and not to interrupt, but they evacuate the premises. Run away, live to play another day. If they can't evacuate, because if somebody's shooting in the West Campus, you don't need to lock down if you're in the East Campus. If you're not where the shooter is, evacuate. Okay, get out of the building.
Mhm.
But if you are where the shooter's located and you need to lock down, then you do so. And there's a difference between just closing the door and barricading yourself. I mean, if you're in a room where you need to barricade because you have to hide, then you take the filing cabinets, which are metal, you take off your belt and you tie it around the door up at the top where the hinges are, so that that door cannot be opened. Okay. um, so if you can't evacuate and you can't hide, then unfortunately you have to fight to save your life. And that's a reality in some
Yes.
situations.
Mhm.
Some of the individuals who lost their life at the Virginia Tech active shooter event, unfortunately, sadly, tragically, they weren't trained to know what to do, and they were passive. And I can tell you this, Brittany, if there's one thing that will assist someone in being killed in an active shooter situation, that is, be passive. Okay, you do not want to be passive in an active shooter situation. You want to act. Okay,
Mhm.
evacuate, hide, fight. And if it's possible, you want to attack the shooter if you have to fight to save your life, which is a last resort. Okay, if you can get, if you can get one or two or three or five people to attack the shooter all at once, which is called the swarm technique. It's basically the same technique that the defense uses when they tackle the running back. When 5 or 6 defensive guys have a running back tied up and he's not going forward anymore, then the ref blows the whistle, the play's over. So what you want to try to do is you want to try to attack in mass, because yeah, maybe one person might get shot. God forbid, we don't want that. But if 5 people attack the shooter, there's a better likelihood of stopping that person and disarming them than if one person attacks. And a quick example that I like to give is in the movies where Bruce Lee was, he was always the excellent martial arts professional, but people in the movie would attack him one at a time. And it's not difficult to dispatch somebody one at a time. But if 5 people attack you all at once, that's more difficult to try to do.
It's a whole nother ball game, which, brings us back to the bystander effect.
Yeah.
That is proof in the pudding that something good could come from that. Less people can die. And then, at work, if you see a situation happening, if multiple people be like, hey, knock that off, or, it's not that serious, you're gonna lose your job. Is it really that, people that are seeing it happen, opening their mouth and being a leader, even in that moment, to be like, let's bring this down. It's not that serious.
Yeah, that's important. And that's what people need to do. They need to have the courage to say something, like the Department of Homeland Security, their slogan, if you see something, say something.
Yep.
That applies to every facet of the workplace. If you see trouble, stop it, try to stop it, protect yourself. You don't want to put yourself in harm's way,
Right.
but you want to speak the truth, to people so that they can be cognizant of what the consequences can be. And that's what we do all the time. We go in, we train, we tell people the truth, and then we let them be empowered by those truths.
That's, a big thing for me in my messages is just the truth, whether people like it or not. Yeah. The truth hurts, but the truth is still the truth, regardless.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of my slogans is the truth divides, the truth dissects, but ultimately the truth delivers.
Ooh, I like that. You're gonna need to give me all these little notes for these quotes.
I'll email a couple of them to you. You have license to use them whenever you want.
Thank you. And
like Colonel Jessup said in what was it, a few good men, when he was on the witness stand or something, whatever the movie was with Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson. He said, "You can't handle the truth."
Mm-hmm. That's me.
A lot of people can't handle the truth, but the truth is what sets people, free. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And thank you so much for being on this show with me. I think that you've given out a massive, training even just in this video. So I think that it's going to help people. And guys, hit him up if you HR, whoever you need him, hit him up. I'm going to have the links below, and I'll talk to you guys soon.